Now, some of you have been dealing with hip impingement, may feel tightness of the hamstrings, and you feel like it may be referring there. Chicken or egg, who really knows? But hip impingement, can it refer to the hamstring? We're going to answer that question in the video today. Hey everyone, I'm Sebastian at Performance Play Sports Care, part of the locally world famous chiropractors in Costa Mesa, California. We offer virtual and in-person services. Subscribe to the channel. This is a series on hip impingement. Now, hip impingement, referring to the hamstring here in the back, the short answer is no, it can't. It can't actually refer there, meaning if you put a needle on this structure here, the part of the front of the hip capsule, or the area where the impingement is actually happening, which is usually in the front, right into here, it won't ping pain or tightness, sensitivity to the back of the hamstring. Okay, that's the short answer. The long answer is it can be associated to it. The reason is because a lot of times people who are dealing with hip impingement also have poor movement strategies, they have movement compensation, and they also have muscles that help out while the other ones decided to not help quite as much. I'm going to pull up this model closer to you so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about mechanically. So this model here is of a hip joint. Obviously there's not hamstrings attached to it, but just so you can get a reference point, there's the middle part of me, there's the pubic bone. This is my, I guess this is my left hip, but on camera, it's on this side. This is the outer part of the body. So here's the point of the hip on the side. We have the hip flexor, we have the glute, that is the glute, it looks like the glute med, glute minimus, and here's the small rotators and so on. Deep inside there's the capsule of the hip, and that's where the impingement is said to happen within the aspect of the capsule of the hip. Now, impingement itself is like when you have to bend forward and your femur, your thigh bone, does not move. It's when your body moves over a fixed femur, or when you bring your knee to your chest standing. Single leg stance or kicking a ball, this is when your thigh moves up and the rest of you stays stiff. Essentially, it's an approximation here. This area approximates and it pinches and you say, ow, all right? But the body's pretty smart. It likes to stay away from pain. And so there's certain muscles that sometimes will help out to help get away from that pain. Let me give you an example here. I'll do kneeling because the camera's not going to move. If doing this side was my hip impingement side, since I'm approximating together, if it hurt to go like this, which is generally pretty close to a standard orthopedic test, if we dive this guy in, most people say, ow, hurts in here. Now, an easy thing to do is if I were to pick up this model here, I'd bend down, and as I got closer and this bothered me here, as I reached across my body would say, I'm going to help you out and do that. Okay, it may not be this dramatic, it may be slightly subtle, but as you notice, if you did this test, you'd notice that this generally probably feels a little bit better. And what this is other muscles of the body coming in to help. And essentially, movement of the hip or movement of the body even is a team approach. If there's only one muscle working, like say the hip flexor, it'll smash into that area and creating a little bit more hip impingement. Let me retract a little bit on that statement. The hip flexor never only works in isolation. It's literally impossible to have one single muscle contract only. But there's a collective amount of events that happen. Imagine your hip flexor working 50% while your glute works 50% to keep your hip nice stacked in the socket. Now imagine if your hip flexor works 75% and your glute works 25%, it pulls it a little bit forward because it's so strong on the front side here as you start to bring your knee up towards your chest. Then the opposing can happen, say they happen too. I don't know too many people where they've been to a physical therapy clinic where someone said, you know what, your glute is way too strong. Let's turn on that hip flexor, right? Usually it's the other thing. On that same note, most people don't need to strengthen their hip flexor extra with hip impingement. Most of the time they need to balance the area out, get the compensatory actions to stop, repattern some movement, and then load and make the hip happy. Okay, Very rarely does anyone really need surgery to reduce their cam or pincer. In some cases, it may be helpful because there's actually structure blocking the way of having a happy hip. But most people respond super, super well to rehabilitation, change of habits, sitting less, walking more. As simple as they may be, they're very helpful. And then also doing certain types of changing activity, like getting more into sport no matter what age you are. Okay, if you guys are looking for help, we have an ongoing series on hip impingement that we can answer a lot of the questions you guys have and a lot in the comments. Ask questions in the comments to help us develop information and content for further videos to come. We also have a webinar in the corner which covers 3 diagnostic categories, basic diagnostic categories of hip and groin pain that many of you may not be aware of, and you have no idea these things even exist. So I highly suggest that you get that. It's completely free. But if you're looking for help directly and you want to know what to do, reach out to us. We have virtual and in-person services. We coach people virtually, and it's not a big problem. We need to see movement, we need to coach you, and so on. But if you come in person, it's always better. We can do a good, thorough examination, figure out if you need an image, if you don't need an image, answer any questions that you have. So reach out to us. We'll see you guys next time. Subscribe to the channel. Take care.